Welcome to another edition of LRMania Reviews, and today I'm going to be reviewing WWE NXT Takeover Brooklyn 2, which took place in August of 2016, and then first of all, actually, the review will come second. I first wanted to give a bit of a rant or an address of what NXT is and why I'm losing interest in the brand. You know, the main reason I enjoyed NXT so much for so many years, from the first Arrival show, February of 2014, till about the summer of 2016 when the WWE draft happened in July, and they basically devoured half the NXT roster and took so much of their top talent, and then the roster just went to shambles after that, and they could not recover from the draft, and NXT really has been lacking as of late. I have not enjoyed NXT that much. I don't even watch the weekly television show anymore. I read the spoilers. I watch all takeovers. Takeovers are usually still good, but one thing that I evidently noticed, especially after watching this show, is that these characters do not relate like the old characters, and it almost feels like this is like a new era. This is the end of the Attitude Era. The Attitude Era and NXT is now over, and now we're into, I guess, the Rage Era, or the kind of ruthless aggression kind of period, and this period is not doing well. I'm not enjoying these characters. I am not into anyone. I like Bobby Roode. I don't love him. I saw him in TNA. He got boring for a while, I don't even watch TNA, but when I did, he was kind of boring there, and I haven't, watched any of TNA in a while, and a lot of these guys are TNA guys. Eric Young, I hate TNA. TNA was so fucking bad, and I like a lot of these guys. It just kind of feels like TN NXT. Before it was ROH NXT, which was really good when he had Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens and everyone. Now it feels like TN NXT. Another thing, you lost so many top talent. All these likable characters are not there anymore. These characters they felt so relatable, and a lot of them were cheesy. A lot of them were, a little over the top, but they all worked for NXT. You watch Brooklyn 1 from a year ago, or you watch watch Brooklyn 1. So many of those characters are so much better than the characters you see now. Everyone now, the wrestling is still the same. It's still good. It's just the characters are lacking. You're not invested into the show anymore. You don't care about the characters. And a lot of guys just seem boring there. Austin Aries, I find so boring in NXT. I like him on the main roster now. I like him in the Cruiserweight division. He's doing good, but he was so boring in NXT. So, you look at, Brooklyn 1 card to this card. You lost Finn Balor. You lost Kevin Owens. You lost Sami Zayn. You lost Adrian Neville, even though he was gone for a while. He was a big star. You lost Tyler Breeze, who was a big star on NXT, even though he sucked on the main roster. He was a complete bust. They would later lose Samoa Joe. They've lost Nakamura now. They have lost Hideo Itami's been injured practically the whole time. Corbin's gone, even though the fans hated him. Just so many top level guys from NXT are gone, and the main, and then of course the woman, the 4 horsewomen are gone. Sasha Banks left, Bayley left, Charlotte left, Becky Lynch left. Enzo and Cass left. They were big stars. They left with Carmella, and then of course you had Alexa Bliss who left. You had Nia Jax leaving. You had Dana Brooke leaving. You have all the women leaving. The women division is completely different, except you still have Asuka. They completely evaporated the whole main roster. Now the show just is not very good anymore. And no one's connecting. I don't find these characters very interesting. It's hard to sit through that show. I was watching one episode with Billy. The show started off with Nikki Cross and Ruby Riott. They were getting into a brawl, and I just can't watch this shit anymore. I don't care about Andre Cien Almas, and to me, they're just trying to make him Alberto Del Rio. I'm just not interested in NXT anymore, so these characters are just really lacking now. And, I guess losing all those talent, Bayley was such a huge part of NXT. She was huge. Of course, Sasha and, the match they had at Brooklyn 1, now they're both gone. This was Bayley's last show. Charlotte being gone, and, the woman, and, that whole Brooklyn card, Balor and Owens at the main event, both left within a year. Bayley and Sasha, both left. Baron Corbin, he had a match with Samoa Joe. They both left. the tag team match, those guys, the Vaudevillains, they sucked. But they had Alexa Bliss managing Blake and Murphy. She left. She's actually doing very well on the main roster now. Tyler Breeze left. So the card lasted are all on the main roster now, and now it's hard to book NXT when you're losing so much talent so quickly. So I'm really losing a lot of interest in the product. I still enjoy the takeover shows. They're entertaining. The wrestling is still good. It's not the wrestling, it's just these characters, and the entertainment's gone. That magical fun. When you watch NXT, was magical from February of 2014 to like April or even June of 2016. The NXT magic, that kind of warm, fuzzy feeling you'd watch inside, like you're kind of, smiling, and it brings you joy. That kind of feeling you got from it's completely gone, and that really that kind of sucks. So there was no WWE documentary review on this episode. I just wanted to give my thoughts on the current state of NXT and give a bit of a rant on it of why I'm not enjoying it. So now let's talk about NXT Takeover Brooklyn 2. The show starts off really well. They recap last year, so it's like a sequel to last year's show. It goes off. It's Brooklyn 2. They're not even calling it anything else. So it is the sequel to the first Brooklyn show a year ago on SummerSlam weekend in the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. Again, they really make it, known how big of a show it was last year, and you can tell the interest in NXT completely diminished because they were having a lot of trouble selling out this show. And Triple H himself, he's even given interviews how he was not happy, not particularly with the show, but on a different takeover, of how much talent they lost and how hard it was, and you can really tell by watching the show. So they do a lot to make the show seem like such a big deal, and how big of a show the first one was. The first one even had its own WWE 24 episode. That was one of the most famous NXT takeovers of all time. That first Brooklyn show, love Brooklyn one, love that show. So this show, they're trying to capture that same magic, and that magic's not there anymore. The show starts off, you have Austin Aries against No Way Jose, and it was a good match. No Way Jose had his big entrance. Aries comes out again. He was very boring on NXT for me. Was never a big fan of him in NXT. I enjoy him on the main roster now. The match was kind of boring. Or the match actually wasn't boring. It was a good match. Not a great match. It was a good opener. A good way to start the show off. Austin Aries eventually got the win. And of course, after the match, Aries would beat up Jose more. Then to make the save, they have the return of Hideo Itami. He comes back, doesn't get a huge pop. He lays out Austin Aries, hits the go to sleep with GTS, CM Punk's old move, which he stole from Kenta, who is Hideo, in Japan. So that gets a huge pop. The only reason he's really getting a big pop is because he's using CM Punk's move. And, of course, it's his move. But, people think of CM Punk when he does that move. And I'm starting to think, Kenta, he was injured, or Hideo, he was injured so many times. He got hurt, he tore his rotator cuff or separated his shoulder. He messed his shoulder up really bad. Out for like a year and a half. Comes back here, he gets hurt again. Then he had a match he eventually had a match at Bobby Roode at NXT TakeOver Chicago, but we're not there yet. So he would come back here, make his return. He lays out Aries, doesn't get a huge pop, but you kind of feel bad for him. And I think the thing that really hurt him, I'm sure he knows it too, is the emergence of Shinsuke Nakamura, who's a much bigger star than him. He doesn't have Nakamura's charisma. He can't compete with Nakamura. I don't think WWE is willing to push two Japanese talent at the same time, and I think Nakamura really, really hurt Hideo. So, he came back to a pop. It was a cool moment. Then you have Billie Kay and Ember Moon. Billie Kay's okay. I don't mind her. I think she's okay. Nothing great. I really, really like Peyton Royce. I think she's going to be a star. I love her, and I like them together. They're a good team together, but she comes out here, has a bit of a sloppy match with the debuting Ember Moon. And Ember Moon, I'm not digging her. I don't really like her gimmick too much. I'm not too into her character. I think she's okay, but they have her win with the Eclipse, which was a cool move. And the match was sloppy. He had some botches. The fans were almost chanting, "You fucked up," at one point when they botched this Widow's Peak submission. But the Eclipse was a cool move. And it was a nice showcase for Ember Moon, but it was okay. There was nothing special there. Probably didn't even need to be on the show. Probably could have just been on an episode of NXT. And then we have, after that, an awesome, incredible entrance for the glorious one, Bobby Roode, who makes his awesome debut in NXT. Glorious, you hear it playing on the speakers in the show. The whole crowd is just singing "Glorious" as expected. He comes down from a huge platform, comes in, a huge pop, and then he has a match with one of the most boring guys in NXT, Andrade Cien Almas. Andrade Cien Almas is so fucking boring. I hate him, and he reminds me so much of Del Rio, and Del Rio bored the shit out of me. I thought that guy was boring as fuck. He was so fucking boring, and here comes Almas, and just gives me the same vibes, just boring as fuck. So Bobby Roode came off as such a big superstar here, and the match was okay. By that was how he was presented. He presented him as a big deal, and the match was decent. It was a good match, not a great match, a solid match. It didn't need to be. It was in the middle of the card. Almost got a little bit too much offense in my opinion, for a debut of Bobby Roode. But the match was pretty decent. And then we went to the tag team title match. One minor complaint of both these teams is they both look the same. You have Johnny Gargano, who kind of looks like Dash Wilder guy, head of hair, beard, has a full beard actually. Similar look. And then, of course, that Scott Dawson looks a lot like Tommaso Ciampa, a bald guy with a beard. Kind of a bit of a complaint. They both kind of look the same. Watching this match, I have to say, even though I've ranted on NXT, this period was the prime of the NXT tag team division. We saw the women shine, we saw the heavyweight, the men's top division shine. This was the time of the best tag team wrestling in NXT. The tag team wrestling was the strongest part of NXT for a while, and the main two reasons were these two teams, Revival and then DIY, Gargano and Ciampa. DIY was extremely over. They had so many false finishes. You really thought DIY was going to win. They had a lot of close-up roll-ups and pins, and then, of course, Revival ended up winning, and the match was great. In my opinion, match of the night. In my opinion, I would even say this is the best tag team match in NXT history for its up until then. Just this match was awesome. Loved it. Great match. Revival retains. Crowd badly wanted DIY to win, which was great since it sets up their rematch in Toronto. But, yeah, I thought this was great in my opinion. The best tag team match I've ever seen in NXT. This was a great match, and of course, great ending with Gargano and Ciampa getting a standing ovation at the end, really getting themselves more over. So Asuka and Bayley were in the co-main event for the Women's Championship, and this was Bayley's final match. You can really feel this is Bayley's last match. It's her send-off. She has all these huggers lined up, and really, you can already think before the match is starting, thank you, Bayley, for all the great memories she put in NXT. She was such a star in NXT, and she was one of the best characters in NXT history. They have Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte all in the audience, and they're all there for Bayley to see her last match. It was fun. They cheer Sasha, cheer Becky, and they boo Charlotte. Charlotte's a heel, but they really don't like Charlotte. They think she was really doing a good job as a heel to get booed in this environment. But yeah, they're all there to see Bayley's final match with Asuka, which of course is a tie-in to last year when they had the whole curtain call for Horsewoman, planned curtain call last year. So they're there for again, they're going to do that again to give her a good send-off. And the match was very good. Really good women's match. Not the best women's match. I did like the match she had at NXT Takeover Dallas more. I enjoyed that more, and I felt like a really a better overall match. There was some sloppiness here, but this was still a very good match. Asuka wins as she should, and a really good moment at the end. That was a great send-off for Bayley at the end. She hugs Sasha and Becky. She hugs Charlotte, who they did boo Charlotte. That was actually kind of funny. Then she hugs her mom, which is a nice one. Of course, she goes and hugs Izzy, and Izzy's Bayley's biggest fan, and Izzy's crying. That was just a really nice moment. Crowd chanting, thank you, Bayley, as she deserves, and a great moment and a great way to end Bayley's career in NXT. So thank you, Bayley. Now the main event: Samoa Joe and Shinsuke Nakamura in a very anticipated match for many years, and which many thought would be a classic, and this was the main event. Nakamura gets a huge entrance with the violins. Took forever, but that was an awesome entrance, so he comes off as a huge star. And the match was supposed to be a classic. Wasn't a classic. In the match, look, I wouldn't call it, it was supposed to be one of the best matches of all time when seeing these two finally lock up. And I would even call it a great match, close to a great match, but not, a classic match. And Nakamura winning the belt was a good moment. So, overall, NXT Takeover 2, very good show. Really enjoyed it. Didn't like it quite as much as Brooklyn 1. The crowd wasn't as into it. The product wasn't hot. A good show, but not as good as the first one.